taking an exhale there. It is a Saturday morning, goldenblack.com Saturday simulcast with the coaching search legend Tom Dienhart, who may be about the end of his ropes here with this search. We've been through a few of these over the years, and this one's I don't know if twists and turns are what is the best way to describe. They all, by definition, because we don't know, we don't have emphatic data that tells us this is exactly what's going to happen. But Tom, good morning, and thank you for. You're always up early, but it's good to have you. And you saw a good volleyball game last night, right?
Yeah, how about that? Whoa, Lady Boilers, or I should say the Boilermakers, won Thursday and Friday. Didn't lose a match, so they're on to the Sweet 16.
They'll wait to hear Louisville plays tonight, I believe. They could theoretically, in all likelihood, Louisville plays Northern Iowa. They will play Louisville next week at the Yum Center, if that's what it ends up. And Stanford will be coming. So it will not be easy for Dave Shondel's group, but
he's a good man.
Good man. He's done a great job there. All right. It is coaching search heaven here. I don't know. Tom, you have outlined this brilliantly, in my view, just keeping everybody up to date. And yet, I think one of them, as we talked offline before this started, we don't know for sure what's happening. There's a lot of moving parts to this. So what's the latest from that you care to share at this point in time? And then we got some questions too as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, just it's hard to get your hands around these things. I've kind of done a few of these over the years, and trying to get information people don't want you to have.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun trying to ferret it out. And I've gotten a chance to meet a lot of people over the years who are sort of in the industry, if you will, because it kind of helped me try to at least piece together what may be going on, Alan. But there's not a lot of certainties right now, other than a couple things. Feel pretty certain Babinski wants to coach Monday, and feel pretty certain that coach is working this weekend.
Yeah,
and we'll see if the deal can be closed or not. We'll see. There's a sense of urgency. The portal opens December 9th, obviously. A few people have been following along on the website. They've seen some of the coaches who we think are under consideration. But yeah, just stay tuned. Something could be resolved during the next 48, 72 hours. There's a basketball game. How about this, Alan? There's a basketball game Sunday at noon.
Yeah.
How about trotting the new coach out at halftime of the basketball game and introducing the Mackey crowd?
Yeah, that would probably be everybody's dream, and whether that will happen will remains to seen.
I guess my point is I don't think you're going to have, even if the coach information comes out there, there's not going to be a press conference Sunday because of the basketball game, and maybe early next week. Who knows? So I'm getting ahead of myself again, but. I think it's going to be obviously a guy, like I said, who's a proven head coach if he's coaching this weekend, obviously. And I saw Mike Babinski at the game last night, the volleyball game. He was there the last two nights. With Tim House was with him. Mung Chang was at the volleyball game last night with the son. And boy, Mike Babinski, Alan, he looked relaxed, happy, like he didn't have a care in the world. So I'm drawing a lot of assumptions by the way somebody carried themselves, but. Looked like his homework was done. He was ready to watch TV on a Friday night.
Yeah. Well, and some of those guys, let's go over some of these names. You've had intel on just about all of them in one form or another, people telling you this is where they might go. Obviously Barry Odom last night, his team at UNLV lost to Boise State, 21-7. Tyson Helton, I think they also played last night and got beat. Just go through some of the names, at least that are on your thought process. And again, it could be, as they say, you could bet the field against this, even though I don't think anybody's covered this. Nobody's covered this more closely, and you have more contacts. But it's a tough nut to crack because Purdue's not divulging where this is going on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, nor should they.
No, they can't. It's a search.
And I've got a couple agents I've gotten to know over the years. I stay in touch with some head coaches, that are still head coaches, some guys who were used to be head coaches that may be coordinators now, assistant coaches on other teams. Those are the types of people that I'm reaching out to. And yeah, Barry Odom, we started getting a lot of buzz on Barry Odom on Friday, right? Oh, Barry's the guy. Barry may be the guy that's at least the perceived front runner right now, if you will. And Lawton, Oklahoma, great guy, very, very effusive personality. Head coach at Missouri for 4 years from 2016 and 19 at UNLV now. 2 great years at UNLV, even though they lost last night. And Barry's a defensive coach, though, Alan. I thought maybe Mike Babinski wanted. He didn't say he cared what side of the ball the guy came from. I guess I still would like to have a defensive-minded head coach. But again, Barry Odom has cut his teeth as a defensive head coach. DC at Memphis, DC at Missouri. He was a linebacker in Missouri, too. So Barry's a guy that would seemingly check a lot of boxes. Proven head coach, had success at Mizzou. He's just 500 there. A lot of success at UNLV. So that's a guy who could be squarely in the front runner seat, if you will, if we had to place somebody there right now.
Tyson Helton, obviously, also another one that's gotten a lot, on this whole situation too. Obviously, Western Kentucky was in the mix 2 years ago. Varying reports on that, but a guy that's an offensive guy has had a lot of success. They got beat soundly last night, as I understand it. But what do you see? It's the Jeff Brom offensive capabilities. A young guy. What do you like about him?
Yeah, 52-12 loss to Rich Rodriguez in Jacksonville State in the Conference USA Championship. Rich Rodriguez, the sidebar, according to reports, is going to interview for his old job at West Virginia. That'd be kind of fun for him to go back and play it again, part 2 in Morgantown. I like Rich a lot. I think he's a great coach. And, I hate Allen to judge anybody on one out. But I know Tyson Helton, that didn't look good last night, obviously. But, man, I wouldn't want, again, one singular game to define.
No, and I don't think Mike Babinski, if Tyson Helton's the guy, is going to hold it up to that. No,
you can't. Again, you can't worry about winning the press conference. Who cares? We're gonna forget about the press conference, especially when the football start flying at Ross-Ade Stadium about, I don't know, 1/8 of a mile from where I'm talking to you, Alan. The press conference doesn't mean bupkis. So again, Tyson Helton called him Mini Braun by some people. Of course, Jeff came to Purdue from Bowling Green, WKU University. Tyson Helton's done a good job down there. 6 seasons, 6 bowls. Offensive head coach. Comes from, not this matters, comes from a very good football family. Obviously, Clay Helton. And Kim Helton's his dad was a longtime head coach, too. Clay was at USC. But again, Tyson supposedly was thick in the mix last time when they hired Jeff Brom. I actually thought Alan Tyson was going to be the guy. 2022. I was surprised when Ryan Walters was announced.
Yeah.
When that news broke, Ryan Walters, boy, you talk about a zigging when everybody thought you were going to zag. At least that was the case.
Right.
So Tyson. Maybe Tyson's still involved. Maybe Tyson's too obvious, Alan.
Yeah.
Maybe Purdue's moved off of Tyson, but I have to think he's a guy that maybe they came back to and at least talked to, at least virtually at some point during this search. But that's certainly a guy you have to keep on your radar.
Well, a question here, and certainly one we've been talking about, Ultimate Boiler. We have a lot of questions on the board. For Odom was more involved with UCF and West Virginia. Of course, Odom's tight with the new AD in Morgantown. What do you know about that?
Yeah, Ren Baker. Ren Baker worked with Barry in Columbia, Missouri. He worked with Ren Baker when he was at Memphis as well. So, there's strong ties with the AD, Ren Baker, and more at West Virginia and Barry Odom. So people are making that natural connection. I'm not sure if they're going to end up going that way. It sounds like, again, the Rich Rodriguez stuff has gained a lot of mojo right now. Someone said Jimbo Fisher at one point was trying to get involved. Jimbo, of course, is a native of West Virginia, grew up there. We all know his track record as a head coach, where he's been, Florida State, Texas A&M. So, you got to consider Barry maybe could be in play at WVU. Some thought maybe he was even going to be a guy at Central Florida. But, some people were sort of postulating, too, that, Barry Odom's probably got one more crack at this, Alan, to be a Power 4 head coach. one more crack.
Yeah.
And they thought, you know what, maybe he doesn't want to use that one last chance at Purdue. Maybe Barry's going to say, look, man, I'm going to come back to UNLV, run this back again. The jobs that he really wants are Arkansas, where Sam Pittman's coming back, but he's on a hot seat coming in next year. And who knows, Alan, maybe he's a guy at Oklahoma State this year. He's a native of Oklahoma, from Lawton, Oklahoma. And we all know what's going down with Mike Gundy in Stillwater. Would the people at Oklahoma State want to talk to Barry Odom for that job? Because he would make a lot of sense to follow Gundy there at Okie State.
Yeah, the fact that, and of course, Purdue faced Barry Odom twice, right? They beat him in Jeff Brom's first year at Mizzou 35-3, but Odom was the coach in 18 when they came back and beat Purdue in that controversial,
correct,
for Purdue at least, controversial no touchdown in the south end zone.
That's right.
I can't remember who was that. Was that Jared Sparks?
Yeah, Jared Sparks.
Had his chance to catch the ball. Thought, I don't know if was he ruled out of bounds or was ruled not a catch. Anyway, Barry Odom has been in Ross-Ade Stadium. It's always interesting because we get, it's been fun on this, if that's the right word. People sending us flight aware programs all the time, which we enjoy getting, but don't too much with them. But Barry's, flying. There are people flying in from. You can put anybody on a flight path pretty much to Purdue. And you got to remember, I think we talked last time, I think Ryan Walters was interviewed at Mount Comfort Airport, I want to say. They flew him, or if that's the story is right, I know the other coaching searches, they get pretty smart about this. Mike Babinski is as good as it gets. He's just not calling us up and telling us what he's doing from that standpoint. Another coach that's interesting, but I think there's been some talk that North Carolina may be in play from John Summerall from Tulane. Again, another interesting candidate, young guy, 42 years old. What do you know about him? Not necessarily where he is in the Purdue mix.
Yeah, real quick. I think that airport Mount Comfort's in Greenfield, Indiana.
That it is.
That is where Ron Walters interviewed. I did a story about that whole process and him driving over there. So yeah, that was a kind of a
he didn't. That's right. He didn't even fly. He drove over from Champaign because it's right on, I think, I-74. I believe that's the story goes. Yeah, go ahead. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, just east of Indianapolis there. But
that's right.
Yeah, John Summerall is a name that a lot of people would love at Purdue. I know that people I've talked to. This guy's highly thought of. 2 years at Troy, did a good job at Troy, then got the job at Tulane last year after Willie Fritz left to go coach Houston. So one guy told me this morning, well, Willie Fritz built that up at Tulane. That wasn't John Summerall. You always hear that when someone walks in and wins with some of the players, but you still have to coach, right? And John obviously did a great job with Tulane this year. And over the years, if anybody's a college football fan knows, that's been a tough place to win. And yeah, some people think he could be maybe a guy that really is the apple of North Carolina's eye.
Right.
We saw the reports of Bill Belichick, for crying out loud.
I love that.
Belichick.
I got my Bill Belichick hoodie on today. I'm harnessing. We both are harnessing our.
But the thing is, I got to cut the sleeves off mine here.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, and I think there was a head coach last night who knows Belichick. Says that's real, man. He's really considering doing that. I thought Belichick wanted to go back to the NFL because he wants that Don Shula record, all-time winless NFL coach. And I think he's 15 wins away or something. I was just really perplexed by that whole.
I can't imagine. In all seriousness.
And again, consider this too, Alan. I mentioned this today talking to somebody. They just fired 73-year-old Mac Brown.
Yeah.
Now you're going to bring in 72-year-old Bill Belichick, who hasn't even been in college probably since the 70s. Anyway, who knows? I kind of explained in my story last night why maybe they interviewed Bill Belichick. And the coach who told me that, it made a lot of sense maybe why they did it. So if you want to read that, check out that story on the website.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's let's be honest, Alan Karpick. There are 4 Power 4 jobs open right now. North Carolina, West Virginia, Central Florida, and Purdue. I think we all can agree without upsetting anybody watching that North Carolina is the best job available, right? So there you go. What's 2, 3, and 4?
You can debate that. Yeah.
Depends on what you're looking at. Now, Purdue's a tough place to win because it's in a tough conference. And in Central Florida's in the Big 12. Anybody, I think, if you got to go in the Big 12, you can win the Big 12 at any of those schools, I think, because there's no Ohio State, there's no Penn State, there's no Oregon in the Big 12 anymore. And then West Virginia, another Big 12 school, right? So there you go. Is Purdue better than West Virginia? However you want to grade it, you can grade it. But North Carolina, I think, was out without peer in this coaching search. So I guess that's my point is, Alan, with so few openings here at the highest level of college football, you'd think Purdue could get a pretty good crack at somebody, right?
Well, and in the Big Ten is, as we've talked about, very attractive, obviously, because it's the Big Ten. The money's there. There's certainty of where it's going with the ACC. Now, North Carolina is a brand that's going to stay. It will land somewhere. I mean, obviously, and if this all shakes up, I mean, North Carolina is a prime time brand. Certainly, it's in basketball, and there's question about that. But there's question about that at Purdue too. I mean, certainly with where basketball is versus football, that part is really interesting. And it's kind of fun to speculate, but again, all things that are going to come to the pass. So we had a question here. What about Matt Campbell? Yeah. Always could be the guy no one talks. He'd be good, wouldn't he? Yeah, can't imagine, but I mean, but he and again, they're not waiting for him. Well, I shouldn't say they'd wait for him if he wanted to come, but he's got some things going. He's got obviously a game today, so he does fill that bowl, and he's obviously, from Iowa State, an extremely well thought of coach.
Yeah, he's that's something I've speculated on a few times, just in the things I've written this last week about. A lot of times, Alan, as you know, you've been a part of these a lot over the years too. The guy who gets hired is the guy that nobody's really talking about.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Even through our things, and Tom and I were going to say it very clearly, not gamblers, but if they laid them all out, and there is in Vegas, you can lay them all out. I'm not sure I wouldn't still take the field between Odom, Helton. I mean, and this is not a criticism of anybody's. It's just there may be somebody that snuck out there. I mean, Jeff Brom was, I can remember in 17 or 16, actually, December the 5th was the day he announced. Played in the championship game on the 3rd, came to the Purdue in the 5th. But even though we knew that was going to happen, or thought that was going to happen, there were so many moving parts to that story in the last 24 hours that Mike Babinski could write that book. He isn't going to write it yet, but he might write it someday, because there were so many moving parts that even if you think you've got somebody that says, oh yeah, he's, so-and-so is going to take this job, it can change in a heartbeat. And I think that part was, we always try to keep that in mind, and never be so damn sure, because we're not from that standpoint. All right, question here: why has every school seemingly cooled on Jamie Chadwell? I don't know if that's the case. And he was a guy that certainly was on our list early, but I don't know if you have anything more to say on that, and whether that's really, Eric's comment is correct or not.
Real quick back on Matt Campbell. Yeah,
go ahead.
Matt would be an absolute home run hire.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
You would win the press conference there, guaranteed.
He's at Toledo, and he's been at Iowa State since 2016. He's only in his mid-40s. Iowa State's a lot like Purdue as far as the city it's in, as far as the type of institution it is.
No question.
Iowa's got Iowa State, Purdue, Indiana. I mean, Matt's had to deal with a lot in Ames, and had a lot of success at a place that over the years has been very difficult to have sustained success at.
No doubt.
But my goodness, people keep waiting for Matt Campbell to jump. When's he going to finally get out of Iowa State? They thought maybe his window would close a few years ago. He got really hot, should have left, didn't, and they had some down years, but now they had another up year this year. Maybe Matt Campbell's the guy in North Carolina. I think that's a guy, if I was the UNC AD, that I would certainly want to talk to. And Jamie Chadwell, I just don't get much on him. One person thought there was something personal about him that wouldn't appeal. I just don't think he's got a long enough track record as a head coach. He just got that job at Liberty from Hugh Freeze. And I know John Summerall only has 3 years of experience, but
right.
Chadwell, I think he even has fewer than that. So I think that may be part of it. But he could very well be a guy that's more involved in than I've been led to believe. So he's certainly done a nice job at Liberty. He had that Titanic upset this year. He was like a 28-point favorite against mighty Kennesaw State and got beat. Probably the biggest upset odds-wise of the college football season. So I think at this point you got to keep Chadwell viable and just go back to the guys in the MAC, Alan. Nobody seems to ever be fired up about MAC coaches. I understand. Nobody wants Chuck Martin at Miami, Ohio. Nobody wants Tim Albin at Ohio, who's supposed to play for the Charlotte job. I don't know. I know it's not sexy. I don't care who you are, Al. Nobody knows if any of these hires are ever going to work out. Nobody on the planet ever knows. Remember, Scott Frost was a home run hire at Nebraska. Luke Fickell was a home run hire at Wisconsin. And you know what, man? Lincoln Riley, Allen, he wasn't going to fail at USC, Allen. There was no way he was going to fail at USC. So who knows? I just wouldn't be so dismissive of somebody just because they're from the MAC. The other guy that's I guess I don't know how if he's ever gotten deep in the process at all. That when this first broke, I thought, man, this guy is going to be the belle of the ball. Is Jason Candle at Toledo?
Yeah.
I mean, if Jason was the guy, he's not coaching. He'd probably been introduced already. But nothing with Jason Candle. He's been there for 10 years in Toledo, done a great job at Toledo. He's another guy that you think needs to stretch his legs and get out of Toledo, man. Get out of Toledo. You can't coach the MAC over 10 years. He's still there. And you don't hear his name for much at this point. So, yeah, those seem like the coaches in the MAC that have gotten some of the at least the most attention this coaching cycle.
Yeah. All right, we'll do a little business here. Union Club Hotel, the sponsor of Saturday Simulcast, Boiler Up Bar, 811 Bistro, good little coffee shop there that is always good to frequent on a Saturday morning. If you haven't had the chance to do that, we appreciate them as well. And a reminder that you can become a member of goldenblack.com. We have gift subscriptions available too. I can't think of a better gift for somebody in your family than a gift subscription, 40% off of our annual rate. So it's really our best deal going. There's a link on our site. There's also a link at the bottom of this podcast, simulcast too, to how to do that if you want to give that last minute gift. Tom Dienhart's story on Ryan Walters, his exclusive Q&A brought a lot of attention to the goldenblack.com this week, and we had a tremendous response. So we've had several hundred new people join us this week, and that's been a big deal from that standpoint. So we're grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for all of you for tuning in.
Real quick shout out, not that Ryan Walters is watching this.
No, he's probably not.
He was going to Disney World, and I was told he's in the Caribbean now. But just appreciate him being a good sport. He could have gone in a shell and just gone into hiding and said, screw all this. But he agreed to talk. That says quite a bit about the guy. And can't be tough. I know fans were obviously disappointed. We all were. Nobody wants to have two of the worst losses in school history. We all know I'm not going to go over the bloody. Yeah. My point again is just, wish Ryan Walters the best, and we'll see where he lands. I'm sure he'll be okay. Alan, he's only 38 years old. He's a lot better looking than either you or I.
No, way better.
He's a lot richer than you or I. And
that too.
I think his life's going to be pretty good.
He was always good to us, and always, I think he and his staff would do it. Certainly your relationship with them, we always appreciated that. All right, this is a good question, but I'm going to take a little bit of not issue, but a lack of a meaningful NIL program. I wouldn't call the Boilermaker Alliance something that's not meaningful. I think they've worked extremely hard. It's not easy at Purdue. Now, and Ryan Walters talked about in his article about starting at $400,000 supposedly when he got here or in his first year, but that jumped. We got a couple big donors last time. I don't know, and we've had a lot of debate internally over what the role of collectives will be. I think it's still a general consensus that they're going to be important. Purdue does have a, Dave Neff and company. There's a lot of work being done there. It's not easy, and it's really not easy, especially when your football program tanked in the last half of the football season. So I think the energy that can come for the Boilermaker Alliance will come with a new coach. And let's be honest too, and I'm not, we do some business with them, so full disclosure, but they're just, people that join the Boilermaker Alliance, get goldenblack.com. Our website is part of it, and it's a business arrangement. But my point is that it is important, and I don't think we know that the House settlement's going to jump in here on July or June 30th, supposedly, if it all gets done. But the role is still important and will play a role no matter what, whether it's in-house, out-of-house, however it works out. Tom, I know you've worked with those guys a lot too, and it has been a little bit of digging ditches certainly for them, but it is an important part of what's going to be ahead, I think.
I think the NILs, I think those collectives are going to play a huge role, Alan. Everybody's going to have revenue sharing, and you can go upwards of 22 million this year. I think it's the cap. Purdue's going to say they're going to hit the cap. Yeah. Then what do you got, Alan? Yeah. Then what do you got? That's what's going to separate you from everybody else, and that's where the collectives come in. There's no doubt about it. So, the Boilermaker Alliance, going back to Jeff McKean, it seems like a minute ago, doesn't it? And now David Neff's done a great job. Madison Allgood, Emily Cox, going back to Maddie Daddario. Good, hardworking people, Alan. And maybe Purdue wasn't up to snuff initially with this whole NIL collective business. I think as the seasons have gone by, we've seen them become more on board. So George Karloftis just joined their advisory board. Impressive people across the board anyway. Mark Carney and company, David Woodruff. But again, who knows for sure what a lot of these collectives have, Alan? Now, there's a widely publicized Ohio State spent $20 million.
And we don't know that for sure.
But again, there's those reports. And I've kind of been led to think, well, Purdue had $2 to $3 million this last year.
Yeah.
And schools like Minnesota, I heard Illinois, 5 to 8. So again, there's no list in a magazine where they list everybody's collective coffer or war chest, if you will. You just sort of get dribs and drabs from people who report things, citing sources, who knows. But again, I guess the results are on proven on the field, Alan Karpick.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's not always true, but as they say in life, you usually get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And I was told Purdue had guys willing to come here, and they're out of their price range, Alan. Couldn't get them here. So you have to settle, Alan. You have to settle. And we saw Purdue lose Nick Scorton to Texas A&M. And someone told me this, and it makes a lot of sense, Alan Karpick. When you get a guy like Nick Scorton at Purdue, when you get a guy like Max Clare, Dylan Thieneman, Devin Mockabee, Will Helt, you got to keep him here, even if you have to overpay him, because you're never going to get a guy like that out of the portal to come to Purdue.
One that is a known quantity. That's
and he's already a known quantity too.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing too. Is
you got to keep the guys here. That's job one. And I call it the big four for Purdue. The big four guys. 3 are in the portal now.
They could come back, right?
Yeah, they could come back. We saw Helt and Thieneman and Clare. Mockabee, I think, is waiting a little bit. Maccabee's got plenty of offers out there, and he's got options, if you will. But he's really tied to Lamar Kennard. I think they want to see who the coach is, and they want to see what Lamar Kennard's going to do. And I think Devin Mockabee, I'm always told he really wants that Purdue engineering degree too.
Yeah,
he's just a different dude, man. He's a different dude, and he just kind of amazes me the way he carries himself. But again, the collective NIL. If you're the head coach, Alan Karpick, and you're sitting there with Mike Babinski, that's going to be one of your first questions.
Yeah.
Without players, you got nothing. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your playbook is, how many rings are on your finger. If you don't have players in a good collective, you got a little chance.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, here we're going to go back to where we were at the start of the show. Tom, you said Purdue had its guy, but the key thing in there is there's a question mark. No, we said late last evening, what gives? Not so sure. I think the whole point, I'll let Tom speak, but is that we don't know. We've got a lot of people we're talking to. There's some intel and strong intel that says that Purdue may have its guy, and it may happen this weekend. But it's just the way it works out. Again, I remember. Go back to Jeff Brom again. We had Jeff Brom. We broke that story back in 2017. I won't tell you exactly how we did, but that still could have changed in the last minute, and it came within minutes of changing, and it didn't. So we are just one thing. Tom and I are grizzly old men, and Brian Newbert, Mike Carmen on down the line. We know never to say never in this business, especially when it comes to this stuff. Is that a fair assessment, Mr. Dienhart?
Yeah. And there's some thought that, whoever the next head coach is, or as they continue looking for head coaches, it sounds like they have zeroed in on somebody. So we'll see if they can close the deal.
Yeah, it's part of it.
That's the best way to put it. That person may be on campus today, later this afternoon, maybe looking around, kicking the tires, if you will, looking under the rug, looking under the couch. I think things to this point have all been done virtually, probably with whoever they're looking at, Zoom calls, whatever, back channel talks through agents and whatnot. So again, Babinski wants somebody by Monday. You don't have time to bring in 15 people in 2 days. So, we'll see. I think you're never sure it's done until it's done, right?
Yep.
So that ink is dry until pen meets paper. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting. I think fans will get some type of closure here sooner rather than later. And again, this roster's falling apart, Alan. 20 guys are in the portal. And as you said, most of them, I think, are probably willing to come back. They want to see what the situation in West Lafayette is. Who's my coach? What's the offense going to be? What's the defense going to be? Who's going to be my position coach? So you can't blame these guys for trying to cover themselves and jumping in the portal. But they need to start getting the roster together. We already saw signing day come and go with just 6 players on Wednesday. As I mentioned before, December 9th on Monday, the transfer portal opens up. Of course, Purdue players could already jump in, Alan, because their head coach got fired. But at that point, anybody in the portal come December 9th can start coming back out and choosing schools. Yeah. And deals have probably already been worked out with a lot of players to go to other schools. And Purdue's got to have somebody sitting in the big leather chair in the Kozik football complex to direct and talk to these kids and try to start selling Purdue football and filling out this roster. You know what, Alan? Number one, they need a quarterback.
Yeah.
That's not going to be cheap for a good one.
They've all three are Card's done.
Bennett Meredith is your only scholarship quarterback still that hasn't jumped in the portal.
Yeah, correct. And that also brings it. All right, we are going to bring this to a close so we can start fielding more rumors and watching planes come in and out. But who knows? They may come in a Volkswagen van to interview. You never know. And the days of being on campus, it'll be interesting to see. It always is. And we try. Tom does such a good job. We try to deal in reality here, and that's it's hard sometimes to know what that is. But try not to fuel stuff, and also try to be upfront with our people that we do talk to, so that we're not wagging the dog here, and that's I think a key thing from our perspective to do a good job from this. So
we're trying to fill an information void. There's no information now. There's a giant void, and I know you don't want to deal in all speculation, conjecture, and hearsay. Trying to piece an impossible puzzle together with whatever dribs and drabs of information that seems to have at least some truth to it. But again, in these coaching searches, and it's just it's a real nebulous thing, a moving target, and it's just hard to really get dialed in on really what's cooking. And as you get closer to these things, though, more and more information seems to come out. So hopefully, like I said, maybe we'll get some real clarity here in the next 24, 48 hours. If not soon, who knows?
All right. On the 82nd anniversary of Joe Tiller's birth, that's today, Pearl Harbor Day, the 83rd anniversary of that day of that the United States lived in the day of infamy. But Joe Tiller, I think we can agree on one thing. If you could pick the prototype of a guy that you could get, that would be it. Joe Tiller brought his whole staff. He obviously in those days didn't bring players, but became the all-time winningest coach at Purdue history. From that standpoint, he would be good. So we'll celebrate to have a toast to Joe Tiller and his life and legacy at Purdue as well. So we'll bring this to a close. Thank you all for taking time on your Saturday morning But if you're watching it or listening to on replay, it hopefully will be relevant for a few more hours. It may not be, just because this is a changing landscape, but we'll look for it. Look also for tomorrow's coverage. Purdue and Maryland basketball. Brian Newbert will be hard at work as Purdue takes on the Terrapins and is a very big basketball game, especially after the drubbing that the Boilermakers suffered in Happy Valley on Thursday. It will be interesting to see how Purdue responds. So have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for watching and listening. For those of you that may have missed this, we'll also get to simulcast posted the MP3 of that, the audio portion on iTunes as well. Thanks again to the Union Club Hotel. Have a great rest of your Saturday, all. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you down the road.